welcome to lesson 5 of Learning Java with IntelliJ IDEA. And in this lesson we're going to be looking at casting with Java. Just before we get into that, there was something I need to add regarding variables which I thought might be quite important for you. Variable data types are immutable. This is a term which we use when we're talking about variables. It means when we declare a variable data type, it cannot be changed later on. So if you've got a string set up, you can't change it to an integer. So in the example we've got below, we've got that string text, yabba dabba doo. So string is the data type, text is the variable name, yabba dabba doo is the expression that we want to put inside that variable. We can't then change the text to 42 because 42 is an integer. We can put speech marks around the 42 to make it a string, but if our intentions are to use it as a number, that isn't going to work. Equally, integer values can be assigned to decimal number variables because whole numbers are also decimal numbers. So if we have a double decimal number of 0.42 and we set up that decimal number to equal 1, that will work. However, it will work as a double. So the number, if our intentions are to use it as an integer, that isn't going to work for us because it will have decimal places afterwards. So you have to be really careful when you use your data types that you know exactly what you're going to be using them for. If your intentions are to switch them later on, you may need to set up more variables. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some examples. Now we've got these projects. I'm going to start a new project. So I'm going to go into here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up this project to house all future projects. So I'm going to call this online learning and finish. You've set up plenty of these now, so you know the process. So I'm going to go into src new Java class, and I'm going to call this casting with Java. Now, when we do something like casting, what we are doing is we're taking a data type and we're switching it to something else. So I'm just going to set up a main. Let's have a go at doing the yabba dabba doo thing. String text equals yabba dabba doo. I think I spelled right. And pop in the semicolon. Text equals 42. Now you can see straight away we've got an error come up. So it doesn't like it. Okay. If I was to put this in speech marks like I said before, oops, I'll put it in speech marks like so. Now we're happy. Okay. So what I can do now is I can output it like so. And if we run this application, let's run it. Run. And you'll see the answer is 42. So even though we set it up as yabba dabba doo, we switched it to 42. If I was to take this line out and then run it again, okay, we've now got yabba dabba doo. However, take out the speech marks and it's not happy. If I run it, we've got an error. Okay, it's not compatible. So it's saying that the int cannot be converted to a string. Okay, so that's something that's really important. So this is that immutable area, and let's just show you it as numbers. So let me get rid of these a moment. Oops, get rid of all three. Okay, and we'll go for the other one. So we're going to do double, and it's decimal number equals, I think I had 0.42, and the decimal number equals 1. And again, I'm just going to output decimal number and run that for a moment. And you'll see that it's outputting it as 1, albeit that we've actually got a 1.0. Okay, so what we couldn't do is we couldn't output it as an integer because it's not an integer, it's actually still going to be a double. So the numbers are compatible with one another, but not the other way around. And actually, let's just try setting this up as an integer, like so. And we're going to set that up as 1. And if I set this up as 1.5, it's not going to enjoy the fact that this integer is now got the decimal point. And if I run that, you'll see that it's now incompatible. It's not even going to try to round it. It's saying that the decimal number is set as an integer and it's only going to accept whole numbers. If I go up to here and change it to a 2, it should be happy with that. And if I run that, it will output 2. But what if we want to cast it? Now, casting is where you take the original variable type and you convert it into something else. You convert the value into another number. So I'm going to do that for you now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a couple of examples of where we're going to use an integer. So we've got an integer and I'm going to call this whole number and I'm going to set it 22, like so. Okay, so it's an integer, it's whole number, and it's 22. Now I'm going to want to convert it into a double. Now, as you saw in the last example, we can't just switch it straight to a double. So I'm going to call this decimal number, but I'm going to make sure that it equals whole number, like so. So what I'm doing is I'm saying to it, it's an integer number, but I now want it to be a whole number. Now, if I do an output of decimal number, and then run this, you'll see that it's quite happy to convert that integer into a decimal number. But what if I want to do it the other way around? So let's do that a moment. So let's take this whole number and let that equal, I'm going to do pi, 3.1415926, like so. Happy with that. I'm going to get rid of this line altogether. And if I run that, before I run that, I need to put a D on the end to denote that it's a double. Then run it, and we should get 3.1492. Yep, excellent. Okay, so now I want to convert that into an integer. I can't do it the way that you think. So I can't just go int whole number equals and then type in decimal number. It doesn't want to do it that way. It can't do it that way because the whole number needs to be a whole number. So what do we do when this kind of thing happens? So what I need to do is to create an integer. It's going to be a whole number. It's going to be called whole number, just like before. However, all I do is open bracket int and then type in the decimal number. And what that does is it looks at the decimal number and forces it to become an integer. Now what I'm going to do is we're going to system out the decimal number, but I'm also going to system out the whole number as well. And let's have a look and see what we get. There you go. So we've got 3.1415926 and also 3. So that works really well. Okay, so let's change that now. So instead of using numbers, let's use a string. So let's get rid of all of this, like so. And I'm going to set up a string, and I'm going to call it numbers. And I'm going to make sure that that number equals 42. Now, as you can see, it doesn't like it. So I'm just going to wrap it with speech marks, like so, and now it's happy. Now, if I wanted to add numbers plus numbers, I'll get something that looks a bit wrong. So let's just do that. Numbers plus numbers. And run that. So the answer will come out 4242 or 4242, depending on how you want to look at it. That's because these are strings, and what it's doing is it's concatenating the strings. It would be no different to me creating a string of first name and calling it Joe, and then a string of surname and calling it blogs. And then taking, let's just comment out that line a moment, and then outputting the first name plus the surname. And as you can see, oops, let's do that again. First name and the surname. Now, first name wasn't written correctly anyway, so let's do that properly. There you go. And you can see it comes out as Joe Blogs. Yeah, I know, I'm supposed to do what I said in the previous video and do something like that. And then we got the space in between. Okay. Also known as concatenation, where you take multiple strings and add them together. So that's what the numbers and numbers is doing. But we want the string to have a value, and it hasn't got a value at the moment. Although it's using the numbers 42, it's reading them as if they were part of the ASCII table. There's no value to those numbers at all. So let's convert those into actual numbers. So let's get rid of these. If we want to convert a string to a number, then this is what we need to do. So I'm going to need to parse the number, which basically means convert it from a string into a new value. And in this case, we're going to convert it into an integer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an integer called number, and it is going to be the parse int of numbers, like so. Now you see I've got this line coming up under it, and it's asking me to press Alt and Enter. So I'm going to do that. And what it does is it's going to import the tool that I need to parse that number, in this case parse int. Now that I've imported the parse int, it's working fine. And just to show you, I'm going to do a system out print line, and we're going to add the number to itself, like so. If I press Shift F10, get the answer of 84, 42 plus 42. So that works really well, and we can use this with all manner of maths expressions. So I can do multiplied by 2, run that, yeah, same number. Let's divide it by 2, F10, or Shift F10 rather, 21. So that's working. So it's all working really well. What is interesting is you can actually do the same with the string and the number, but it still goes back to the old concatenation. So let's just put those two together and see what we get. And in this case, we go back to what we had before, which is 42, 42. Except, of course, that the first value is a number and the second value is a string. Just to show you what I mean by that, if I was to do times 2, we Shift F10 it, you'll see that the first value is now 84 and the second value is just 42 because it's a string. What would be interesting is if we do it the other way around. Let's see what happens when we do it like this. See, it doesn't like it. So it's not going to allow you to multiply a string. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video. We've covered converting an integer to a double to an integer, and we've been able to convert a string into an integer. So that really covers everything in regards to casting. I hope you liked this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. And also, if you want to see future videos, please subscribe, and once I've uploaded another video, you'll get notified. Okay, until next time, thank you.